Team Gravity presents Fight Night.
Y'all ready for this?
Good afternoon, everybody, on this fine Sunday evening or afternoon. I guess it depends on where you are. Well, we're all here, though, on a brand new network here, a brand new partner here for Team Gravity Fight Night number 35. What an exciting day. I'm so happy to be kicking off this stream here on Azubu TV here with Fear Dragon. What's going on, my friend?
Dude, not too much. I'm pretty excited for the Azubu stream as well as a nice slick black interface. You know, it's pretty gamer-esque to have that kind of a dark interface. I'm a fan of it. I'm not gonna lie. It's nicer for your eyes.
Yeah, I do like the design of it, and you know what? Honestly, this is an exciting opportunity here, this partnership, because Azubu has really just stepped it up here right before Legacy of the Void comes out to really up the production values to help us here at Team Gravity bring to you guys the level of gameplay and improve it even further, this time with an even larger prize pool, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, we're talking about $200 total for all 6 players involved today. And what is that breakdown, Fear Dragon?
That breakdown is going to be quite fantastic. I believe it is $100 for the premier match. That's going to be the highlight match that we'll be watching at the very, very end. That's the last one we're going to be doing. And that should be, I believe, Parting versus Solar. That's going to be a really, really awesome series. But the other matches are each going to be $50. So we're going to have Puck versus Ruff, as well as Kelazhur versus TooDming. And we're going to be starting off with that latter match, Kelazhur versus TooDming.
Yeah, so, and then after that, we're going to have, I believe, Ruff versus Puck. Is that correct? Yeah. We did have a slight change there. We had a different person playing before, but hey, substitute is not bad at all, guys. And we have, again, just 3 amazing matches for you guys to be spectating here today. And for, well, 35 weeks in a row, man, really impressive stuff, what Team Gravity has been able to organize here for 2015. And now with this new partnership with Azubu, going to take things even further. And, of course, we cannot forget to mention our other partners. That includes Spawning Tool. And they've been with us for a while now. That is an amazing website where we can analyze the replays of professional players and check out build orders and look at statistics of how different players play in various tournaments. And then we also have Match Arena, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Match Arena is another one of our more recent partners that has been amazingly awesome, because we mentioned that there's that $200 total prize pool for today, but that can actually be increased. And here's the cool thing. You can donate to the prize pool, or I would say contribute to the prize pool. And all you have to do is go to Match Arena, and we have a couple of links that are being tossed out in the chat. And for each one of the matches that we're going to be seeing, whether it be Kelazhur versus TooDming, or I believe it was Puck versus Ruff, or Parting versus Solar, all of those matches have a unique URL on matcharena.com, and you can contribute whatever amount you want to the match. And of course, I also want to emphasize that there's also a way that you can contribute without putting any money forward whatsoever, if that is your choice. And you can actually do that by using some of the awesome tags that we have, these special coupon codes, and you'll contribute $1 to the match. Again, you don't actually have to contribute any actual money. Just entering the coupon code will add $1 to the prize pool if you want to. So you can do that. First of all, we'll start off with the current match with Kelazhur versus TooDming, and you can use the code KELAMING. That's KELAMING. I believe that should be tossed out in the chat or something like that, so you guys can copy it over there if you missed it. But that's going to be available throughout the entire match. So please be sure to go ahead and check out Match Arena and contribute if you want to see these players play for a little bit more than just those $50.
Yeah, and you know, the whole point of this is to give you guys an opportunity to go beyond just sitting and watching the games, as great as that is. But you get to participate in a sort of way as well by contributing whether it is to the prize pool or, hey, even just entering that coupon code to just basically allow Matcherino to contribute that amount to the prize pool. And that's just one way where you guys can interact more with the Team Gravity Fight Night series, and we hope you guys will be able to enjoy that.
But, you know, Droopy, we're moving on into the actual matches themselves, and I'm pretty excited for this because our first match, we've said this a couple of times already, Kelazhur versus TooDming. Now, I know that TooDming, the Chinese players in general, have gotten some degree of respect from a lot of people out there. A lot of viewers know that the Chinese players are pretty skilled, but Kelazhur, man, he has been on an enormous upswing, I would say, the past year or so.
Yeah, you know, even before joining Root, when he was still, you know, bouncing around between different NA and Latin American teams, he really started making a name for himself in various tournaments, particularly WCS. And since then, he's really just taken advantage of the opportunities that he's earned for himself, particularly on Root and participating in premier tournaments. He's really been able to improve his game here. It's always exciting to see what he has new in store.
And that's one thing I want to emphasize, and I'm really glad that you already said it, Droopy, is that Kelazhur has improved his gameplay, and I know for a long time, he himself would say, oh, you know, I have a bit of a risky playstyle. I take a lot of risks, and it's kind of a little bit of a dice roll sometimes, but nowadays, super duper solid. But guys, we're going to go ahead and introduce the player down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the red Terran player that I've just been talking about. It is Root Gaming's Kelazhur.
And on the other side of the world, the upper left-hand side of Terraform LE, we have the blue Zerg player. He is a Chinese Zerg player, by the way. We have here TooDming.
All right. TVZ on one of my favorite maps for late game play. I don't know if we're going to be getting a late game right here. This could very well be a much earlier game. Hellbat pushes are something that Kelazhur is very, very much familiar with. But I love watching late game maps or games being played out on this map just because of those center expansions where if you can start mining those minerals in the center expansions, you start opening up new pathways for your army to move through. And I feel like that's just such a cool feature about this map that very few other maps have.
Yeah, and of course you do have those rocks where you can close off certain pathways, right? And right in front of that third and natural area. And that makes things very tricky. If you start trying to move your army across the map, you might find your army split between, you know, one side of one of those platforms in the center, and then you have to pay attention when you micro through this map. So far, we are seeing TooDming right now move right into 15 hatchery. Kelazhur, on the other hand, going to be doing a Reaper expand.
Yeah, these are just like the most standard things in the world that you could be going for. Again, we might be seeing Kelazhur get a little bit more aggressive. I would say that generally I've always liked Kelazhur's play a little bit more when he decides to get aggressive because he actually has some pretty good micro. I can tell you, like, the roots of Kelazhur's micro are fascinating because he used to play from Brazil itself, which meant that he was playing on the North American server with anywhere between 200 to 300 ping. And because of that, he still had to win all of his games with just pure macro and everything, but Terran's such a micro-intensive race, you still have to micro. So it's like basically playing hyperbolic time chamber, like Dragon Ball Z style. He learned how to micro with intense levels of ping. That's like the weights being put on his body. And then he takes off his weighted gear and comes to North America, and now suddenly he's playing with 0 ping or very little ping. And he just plays like an absolute madman with his micro. It's awesome to see.
By the way, you absolutely called it with the aggression. We do have a bunker rush on the natural. The first Reaper is here, just going to be kiting those slowlings as much as it can on the high ground. And of course, it can just retreat into that bunker on the low ground. And it's going to make things tricky for TooDming. He's going to have to, you know, get up some offensive units, whether it's Lings, adding on 2 Queens right now, and then just kind of in one go try to take out that bunker. But until then, these 2 Reapers are going to just prove to be very annoying here and having an opportunity to soften up this natural.
Yeah, and actually the 3rd Reaper is just now finishing up before the factory is going to be plopped down and the reactor gets started. But The Reaper does manage to pick off a Zergling before it gets kill off the SCV building in the command center, which is actually a really important save. Oftentimes players can forget that, but Zergling's trying to go after the bunker. The Queen's also trying to get it down as well, but Reaper's going to be able to escape with their lives.
And that bunker is going to be able to escape too. 75 mineral salvage. The 2 Reapers now head into the main base after everything is down, of course. Reapers will get another drone kill and escape right before the Lings get to it.
Yeah, Zergling speed is going to be finishing up in about 25 seconds, though. So these Reapers have got to be very, very careful about how aggressive they are. Although they're going in after this Queen, the Queen is starting to get a little bit lower on health. But I would say Kelazhur has already done a fantastic amount of damage so far. Killed off only 5 Zerglings and 2 drones, but at the same time, I mean, he's forced out so many Zerglings from TooDming.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you mentioned there about forcing out Zerglings, right? Because if a Zerg player is making Zerglings with his larva, what is he not making? Drones, right? And every Zerg player prefers to drone at this point in the game. And when you're Terran able to do this kind of damage, it's setting yourself up for a nice game as these Lings here are countering, and these Reapers are not finding too big difficulty fending them off, but that SCV building the depot did die.
Yeah, a little bit annoying because he no longer has that perfect record of having lost 0 units this game. But here's the thing. He kept the 3 Reapers alive, and that's the other really important thing to note is that he now has that additional firepower for when these Hellions actually start to move out. And now, having made only a couple, or only having a couple of those Zerglings left over, TooDming has to make even more Zerglings to deal with this. He's throwing down a Baneling Nest, and even that 3rd expansion gonna be a little bit difficult to actually get to. Creep Tumor is getting canceled, just all the small things. I feel like Kelazhur's really in control of this game.
Yeah, right now he's definitely putting on the aggression and setting himself back home up with a 3rd CC. And TooDming is still just having to crank out Zerglings. 24 on the way here as these Hellions are killing the ones that are already out. And these 2 Queens will go down as well. That second one does get toasted. Very nicely done by Kelazhur.
Yeah, but with more Hellions coming in, does TooDming actually have that many units left over? I mean, he's already lost one of those Queens. The Zerglings are now coming in and trying to deal with the Hellions. Reaper's soaking up a couple of shots as well. It even has a Marine mixed in over there. How the heck did he get involved in this? Looks like TooDming is going to be able to clean up.
Yeah, he will, and these Lings will most definitely have to at least attempt to attack Kelazhur, because back home he is transitioning into bio. Right now these Hellions do push out a little bit here and are finding themselves needing to kite those Lings. They do run away.
That is really important that Kelazhur was able to get a couple of those final shots off on those Zerglings, just to soften them up and scare TooDming off from really putting on any kind of additional aggression. Because if he moves in past that supply depot wall in, he makes it so that the Hellions no longer have that space to micro back. It can get really, really awkward for the Terran player very quickly. But TooDming, I will say that even though he has done a really nice job of holding on, and he still actually has a pretty decent-ish drone count. Again, you mentioned he's playing up against a 3cc Terran player, and he hasn't started lair tech. He is still sitting on just Banelings, but I don't think he's researched Baneling speed or anything because he doesn't have lair. So like, this is a really weird situation for him. Oh, I like this round though.
Yeah, he does try to basically catch these Hellions off guard. Not quite able to do it here, at least now without losing a lot of Lings. As Kelazhur might even be able to take the rest of these out, although a lot of them are in red health. It's going to be really close. But yeah, Kelazhur able to take out those Lings, and it's tough because I almost thought for a second there that TooDming wanted to come up with some kind of timing. He was cranking out a lot of Lings. He still has yet to go back to drone. And because of that, and because of that, I mean, if he can't get in some kind of an attack here, he's going to fall further behind.
I really think that this was supposed to be some really big Baneling bust into the natural expansion, do a ton of damage. And you can see now 21 Banelings being made. But is it too late? He did kill off a lot of units for Kelazhur, so maybe this can still work. Kelazhur doesn't actually have that much to deal with this.
Yeah, the thing is, does Kelazhur realize what's happening right now? I mean, granted, he's seen, a lot of Lings out, but he doesn't necessarily know that TooDming's cut drones for like several minutes now. And if he knew that for sure, he'd know that this is coming right now. These Banelings are rolling right on in. And like you said, Kelazhur doesn't really have much.
Banelings blowing up the supply depot wall, but there's still plenty of them left. 16 of them making their way into the natural expansion of Kelazhur. taking out some SCVs. Kelazhur can afford to lose some of those, but he needs to have an army alive to deal with this army of TooDming as it now starts to get on top of the production facility and also obliterate the natural expansion. Kelazhur actually going to be able to hold on over here. He has a couple of Marines still left over.
Yeah, I think Kelazhur can hold here. The question is how many SCVs he's going to lose in the process, and so far it's been quite a bit, as these Lings are now rolling in to take out even more workers in the main base. But Kelazhur does have defender's advantage. He is producing a lot of Marines at once. He will be able to clean this up, but the damage has certainly been dealt.
Well, it's one of those time and time old questions that we asked, Droopy. Is 3CC strong enough to recover from this kind of SCV loss? I mean, you have to remember that was a big investment from TooDming. Even though, yes, I would say he's been able to drone up, and look at that, 10 drones of production right now. He's going to be going up to 65 drones. That's a pretty beautiful number for him right now. But Kelazhur has 3CC. He's going to have the opportunity now to put on the counter aggression. And look at this. Lair is still only just now going to be finishing up soon. There's not going to be any kind of anti-air. And Kelazhur has his medevacs. He has his Marines. This is where he starts to put on the counter aggression with drop play.
Absolutely, and we see the tech disadvantage that TooDming's on right now. I mean, he's just getting 1-1 on the way. I guess halfway done. But you look at Kelazhur, he's 2-2 right now. He's working on 2-2 at the moment. So
no baneling speed.
Yeah, no baneling speed. That's another missing tech item, and Kelazhur able to kill every single baneling without absorbing a single shot. And GG, TooDming knows he can't hold the counter aggression.
Really well played over there from Kelazhur. You know, I really did think that I knew that Kelazhur was going to put on the counter aggression after that push, but I wasn't expecting it to be just that strong of, okay, well, you have 10 or so banelings. Well, that's cool. You don't have baneling speed. So even on creep, I'm just going to stim kill off every single one of those banelings, not lose a single Marine, and boom, won the game. So very clean finish over there from Kelazhur.
Yeah, and you know, like you asked that question, you know, right before that push, is it too late? And it certainly was there. I mean, I think Kelazhur taking out a lot of those Lings with those Hellions really took the bite out of TooDming's timing and delayed it too, because then TooDming had to try to get up more units to make that push. And because of that, Kelazhur, yeah, he lost a lot of SCVs, but again, with the 3CC, with the tech advantages, he already had medevacs out. Really, TooDming didn't do the damage at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. And with that being said, Kelazhur ends up taking game number 1. And I want to remind everyone that, of course, these two guys are playing for those $50, but right now it's actually up to $59 total because people have been donating a little bit or contributing on matcherino.com. And of course, go ahead and check out the chat for the link to the actual Matcherino page, and you guys can see who you want to contribute money to. And we also have an awesome coupon code that you guys can use. It's Kelaming, Kelaming. If you use that coupon code, you'll automatically be just adding $1 extra to the match that these guys are playing for.
Yeah, and you know, you guys, many times, like, we want to support these players that we're fans of or whatever, or at the very least just to, you know, inject some more life into the scene. And this is a great way for you guys to be able to do it, a very unique way that Matcherino is bringing to the table. And you don't even have to spend any money if you don't want to. So definitely go ahead and visit those various links, particularly for this one. Enter that coupon code and show your support for the players that are playing right now.
Yeah, exactly. But we're going to be hopping into game number 2. And just a quick note, just because I know some people are interested in this kind of stuff, game number 1 was played on the North American server, so that did kind of favor Kelazhur a little bit. And game number 2 is going to be played on the Korean server. So what that means is that maybe, you know, like some of the small little bits of micro that TooDming wouldn't have been able to do quite as easily is going to be a little bit easier from now. Kelazhur has that experience, of course, playing from Brazil, so he's used to playing with lag. But you know, doing that kind of extra special, like snipe off every single one of those slow banelings without losing a single Marine, that kind of stuff might be a little bit more difficult to pull off.
Yeah, I almost forgot that I was supposed to go to the Korean server right now. So.
That was actually, so this is like under the covers, guys. That was my subtle hint to Droopy to
I know.
switch over to
I was like, oh, this is his passive aggressive way of saying, Droopy, get over here.
I'm just like, Droopy, where the hell are you? We're trying to get into game number 2.
Little did he know I was gonna bring it up anyway during the cast. So. But yeah, I made my way over to KR right now, and that's just a way to keep things semi-fair, because we do know that lag does affect a player when they're not playing on their home server. So we'll see how Kelazhur can manage here on KR. So far, he did have the upper hand in game 1 when it was being played on NA. So.
Indeed. Well, game number 2 is going to be on another more typical map that we end up seeing. It's going to be Coda. And Coda's just that map that, oh man, Droopy, can we get sick enough of this map? I am so tired of this map, man.
Yeah, Coda Alley, just like, what was it? Overgrowth before it, and Belshire Vestige before it. I feel like there's another map in between those two. But the point is that becoming one of those classic maps now, relatively well-balanced. The first map anyone goes to when they talk about having a practice game, right? And so we're having game 2 on it. And let's check out the first player involved. So we do have here, folks, the Red Terran player spawning on the bottom right-hand side, representing Root Gaming, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kelazhur.
And his opponent spawning in the top left-hand corner of the map, it's the blue Zerg player. It's TooDming. Representing Team Zoo, I believe.
Zenith of Origin, a Chinese team.
I like the name Zoo.
You do or you don't?
Leave it at Zoo. I actually wonder, like, if they were very aware of the English word zoo when they decided to abbreviate to Zoo.
Well, I can see this. There's 2 O's in Zoo, and there's 2 O's in Root. Not sure why that is important to point out.
There are also 2 O's in TooDming.
Oh, okay. What I was saying was just like, okay, he had nothing better to say at 145.
TooDming confirmed joining Root. Big shout out to our observer, Master Dalk, who you see in the chat right now, saying Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah, Dalk has really raised the production value of these fight nights. I mean, I haven't cast in the last few weeks, but I have been kind of dropping in on the fight nights, and I'm seeing all these fancy transitions and stuff. I'm like, man, where has this been the whole time? So yeah, like you said, big shout out to Dalk, who's done a great job for us here in the last few weeks.
Yeah, he's really done an amazing job for a 4-year-old. But at the same time, I want to talk a little bit about this game and how the last game went, because last game we ended up having the kind of early bunker rush, forcing out a lot of Zerglings. It did like a moderately decent amount of damage, but just the follow-up and like the like how Kelazhur was able to continue that aggression and really do so much damage that TooDming had to felt like he had to go for this big old all-in.
Yeah.
And just it did damage, but he didn't have like the tech to actually follow up and defend after that. Like, do you feel like there are any big adjustments you want to see out of TooDming in this game?
It just took too long to develop, and when you saw just how long TooDming was stuck on 37 drones, that's just unacceptable. When you get into that 11-minute mark and then you make your attack, it's too late. The Terrans got 3 CCs worth of mules, and we'll see if TooDming can rebound here and at least give himself a better opportunity if he tries to do some kind of an all-in. Right now, Kelazhur is staying active with the 1 Reaper, and unlike last game, isn't going for that bunker rush. I mean, usually those are good for like maybe 1 game in a series. You can't really do that every game. So we have Kelazhur playing a little more standard now.
Yeah, it's still going up to the 3 Reapers though, so still wants to go for things like the Queen Snipes and continue the aggression. It's just not going to be as committed as the last game with the bunker. Even when you salvage the bunker, like, it's still a little bit painful to throw down the bunker, because that's 100 minerals you could have spent on an earlier barracks, an earlier 3rd CC, etc.
Yeah, you'll talk about early 3rd CC. This is a really early one. Started at around 420, 430, when usually you get your factory first. Kelazhur flipped it. And what happened there?
Early tech buildings. We got an early Roach Warren coming down over here from TooDming. I mean, this is going to be really, really dangerous, especially with the Kelazhur. So the third CC can be a curse and a blessing when you're up against a big bit of aggression from a Zerg player. Because on one hand, you can actually afford to sacrifice a lot of SCVs to make the hold work. But at the same time, you're also going to be investing into a third CC rather than production. So this can get really dangerous, but the Reapers are still alive, and they're still doing some nice damage. They already killed off one queen. They're going to be going after that second queen, and are they going to be able to actually get it? That can actually really start to halt the production for this.
Yeah, and it seems like, and you know, if Kelazhur can do this, that is, because he hasn't killed off that second queen. But you know, if Kelazhur can manage to pull that off, that again would be Kelazhur just really taking the wind out of TooDming's sails when it comes to an all-in timing. And they do get that second.
Like, he doesn't get the scout off on this, and now he finally sees the roaches. The roaches greet him. He got 2 of the Reapers, and the Hellions are just like, wait a second, this is not what we signed up for. I was told that there were going to be Zerglings we were dealing with, not roaches. And now Kelazhur has to throw down an impromptu, just immediate, oh god, get the bunkers up, get the supply depots up. We need something to stop these roaches from just barreling into the natural.
Yeah, even starting to crank out a Marauder here as well, which we all know is that anti-roach specialist. But the 6 roaches are arriving here right now, right before the wall is finished. Will that bunker finish in time? No, it's paused.
Oh no, it's not going to finish, and the roaches are going to actually have an opportunity to make their way in, but we don't actually have any Zergling follow-up from this. It's just pure drones behind us for TooDming, so there's not going to be any kind of big concern about, oh man, the wall is knocked down, there's going to be Zerglings streaming it. It's just going to be those roaches that can make their way in. And with some nice micro, Kelazhur can still hold on over here. He's lost 10 workers, though, and that is going to eat at him a little bit.
Yeah, it will, and if TooDming can clean out the rest of these depots, that's going to keep Kelazhur from being able to produce units with the supply block. So we'll see how long TooDming can keep this up. Right now, it looks like he is transitioning back at home, so he's not fully committing to this timing. He is making a lair right now at home, continuing to drone a bit. Just wants to do as much damage as he can, and he's doing plenty of it.
Oh god, one of the Widow Vines actually taking out Marines over there. Would have been a money shot. But there was some nice target fire. Gonna be able to clean up these roaches finally. At the end of the day, he is sitting down about, let's see, wow, 14 workers killed so far by TooDming. So Kelazhur 3cc, man. I don't know. It's pretty good.
It's that familiar question, right? Okay, he killed a bunch of SCVs, but there's still 3 CCs worth of mules, and that happened last game. But I think this time around, TooDming is a lot better off in the sense that he has his lair tech done. He's getting a Spire at the moment. Kelazhur is not quite in a position where he can do a counterattack. So I think already, just compared to last game, this is a very different scenario.
Yeah, I mean, for the defense, it's also worth noting that Kelazhur had to do things like delay his starport, something that he didn't have to do in the last game. His actually ended up losing a lot more SCVs earlier on, and now he's starting to do things like get up his double engineering base to start getting some kind of upgrades up, just trying to prepare for the more late game style rather than going for that immediate aggression. The Widow Mines walking across the map is very cute, and oh my god, they can actually burrow before the hatchery finishes, and if TooDming doesn't realize this, these Widow Mines could kill the transferring drones.
Oh yeah, and Zerg players, you know, they're not going to transfer 1 drone at a time. They'll bring like 9 drones in one line.
Oh, here they come.
Like, well, this is what, 5?
Oh,
wow!
The score color over there.
That was clutch. That was a clutch score right there. Very nice.
I wonder if TooDming's just like wondering, like, okay, how many Widow Mines did you actually just burrow there? This is ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit unfortunate, though, for Kelazhur, because losing 3 Widow Mines just for, like, those 2 drone kills at this stage in the game where, you know, he already had lost a lot of his units from that defense, that is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, that's always, it's such a tricky thing, right? As a player, you know, you fall behind a little bit. You want to just, you know, do some kind of aggression to make sure you can keep your opponent honest while you buy yourself time to, you know, catch back up. But then it doesn't work. And then you arguably fall behind even further. So TooDming snuffed that out pretty well, the triple Widow Mine burrow, and he's starting to produce some mutas now. And they're already here in Kelazhur's base.
Yep, missile turret finishing up just a couple of seconds late over there, but still gonna manage to pick off 1 or 2 of the Mutalisks. And oh, Mutal's actually flying back in. A little bit of a mistake over there from TooDming, but I guess it's not a huge mistake if he manages to get out alive with that 1 Mutalisk. Oh
Yeah,
God.
Yeah, he's going to try to pick off that combat shield, and if he gets it, it's going to be great. But the SCVs do get there to repair in time. Oh, but the Marines that popped out are dead, but now there's new ones arriving, and the mutas do have to back off.
Very, very curious about this, like the number of mutalisks that are. Okay, finally we're starting to see some more mutalisks. I was gonna say like just sitting on like 4 or 5 of the mutalisks, but he does have a couple more popping out. So TooDming getting ready to transition to that good old standard Zerg style, but probably gonna be needing that 4th expansion. There we end up seeing it being thrown down.
And TooDming is rallying some additional drones, over 18 drones in a row right now. A lot of workers being added on to TooDming's economy here.
A little bit absurd. You know, there's always that question that I have to ask, and it's something that I know people used to joke about. Formerly Liquid Chef used to say, like, where he would make an absurd number of drones. He'd go up to between 90 to 110 drones, and people would say, like, there's this point where you reach too many drones, and I feel like TooDming's starting to walk that line where he's gonna have too many drones.
Yeah, he's at 85 right now, which is, I guess, 5 more than a Zerg player likes to typically stop at. But I guess you can say he can make 5 buildings without replacing those drones. Right now, we have a double drop here in the main base. That is a lair that is potentially a lot of danger. A lot of Lings coming over here to try to save the day. No Banelings here, though, and these Lings will die fairly quickly. Although they do take out a few of those Marines, well, the Mutas certainly converging on them will finish the job. And not too much damage, though, I don't believe. About 9 drones taken out.
Yeah, I mean, he does a little bit of damage, but I would say the main thing that he does is he pulls all of the Zergans and the Mutalisks over into the main base, and that allows Kelazhur to clean up an absolute ton of the creep that was stretching its way forward. And that's going to make his pushes in later a lot easier.
Yeah, that's something that is easily overlooked in the TVZ matchup, how important it is to limit that creep spread, because even though you're not killing units or buildings, a creep tumor, you know, provides Zerg vision. It allows Zerg ground units to have so much more mobility. It makes the game a lot easier for Zerg players when they have creep spread, but when they don't, that's when the Terrans shine.
Yeah, Mutalisks, though, going to be coming into the main base, and the missile turret is not repaired in time, and I don't even know if it would have mattered. The missile turret going to be dealing with a lot of those Mutalisks. The Mutalisks going to actually be able to go after the engineering bay, and I think that an upgrade just got completed just barely in the nick of time, but at the same time, I want to note double medevac drop heading around on the left-hand side of the map.
Yeah, we'll see if that catches off TooDming off guard. So far, though, TooDming's mutas are doing a fantastic job, doing so much damage here in the main base, and Kelazhur is just not really in a position to deal with it. But these 2 medevacs are in position to deal damage here. Let's see. Ooh, the Banelings crash into those first few Marines that dropped. Now they're going to be dropped in a different location to try to focus on potentially a Spire.
Yeah, one of the medevacs, though, does end up getting taken out right before all the Marines actually manage to unload, and the Zergling is going to be able to clean up most of the Marines as well. The push is coming in from Kelazhur on the right-hand side of the map as well, though, and I still don't see that many Banelings. There's only 7 out on the map right now, and there's a lot of Widowmines over here. They're going to be able to greet those guys.
Oh, man. One Widowmine, he takes out almost all of the Banelings here, but Kelazhur doesn't have too much left to continue his assault on that 4th base. Going to be retreating there. And over here on the top, 1 medevac left.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's probably going to get poked out of the sky by that muta.
Yeah. Well, this Widowmine field detonates off on a ton of the Zergans and the Mutalisks as well, but at the end of the day, Kelazhur ends up having to retreat on out and manages to salvage 3 of those Widowmines, though, somehow, miraculously. But well, if he overstays his welcome, he's going to end up losing those as well.
Yeah, it's not a great situation for Kelazhur at the moment. Let's see if he can bring his Marines over there. Yeah, he's going to force the mutas to back off. And the issue here is now Kelazhur has fallen back in supply. He's on 140 to 196. TooDming has not really suffered much economic damage throughout the last few minutes, and because of that, he's able to reinforce fairly well.
Oh, Banelings managed to get the big detonations off before the Widowmines managed to get their own detonations off. And I really like the angle that Kelazhur is engaging this at. He has that high ground, and oh god, that one poor Marine on the low ground. He's actually just running with the Zerg, man. He tried to become one of them, but they were not too accepting of it.
Yeah, you're right. Kelazhur was in a good position to just really deal a lot of damage there as these Zerg units just rolled right past. and now they're here in Kelazhur's base, and really this is an issue of quantity at the moment now, as Kelazhur tries to assault that fourth base again, has to lift all his units up there to avoid the banelings, but he has nothing, no ability to avoid these banelings though in his base, and TooDming is now just ransacking Kelazhur's production.
Yeah, this is going to become a huge problem very, very quickly. Even though Kelazhur is doing a nice job taking out the fourth expansion and maybe he'll take out the third expansion, sure, he's doing the damage to the economy now, but he isn't going to have an economy or production very soon because he's losing his production facilities and he doesn't have any good way to actually clean up any of these units that are in his main base.
Ooh, we are seeing Kelazhur do a lot of damage, though. There is an infestation pit there that's going to keep TooDming from getting a hive. Not that he could really afford that at the moment. Well, we're seeing Kelazhur potentially turn this into a base trade.
That is definitely what he's going for, but he has to win the game with this handful of Marines, and I just don't know if he has enough Marines to actually kill off the reinforcements of TooDming coming in from the natural in the main base. And you can see he's retreating now.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, TooDming just economy, his bank was too powerful, was able to create some more units back at home to hold off on that 2 base, while back here he can continue the attack and that base trade and win it by taking out all these production structures. Kelazhur has no ability to remake the units he lost.
Yeah, and the Marines that he had on the other side of the map, they were doing the good damage, putting up the good fight. A lot of them got taken out as they were trying to move their way back. Oh my god, we actually have contamination going down on the factory and the starport just to prevent Kelazhur from getting out any additional units, and I don't think that he's going to be able to hold with just the units he has. Banelings crashing in, and Kelazhur is falling drastically in supply to TooDming.
Yep, and with that, I think that's gonna be Kelazhur's swan song there. He does have 2 more racks over here, even dropping additional mules. He can repair that missile turret to try to force off this attack on TooDming for a bit, but he's gonna lose everything else though. This natural is gonna be a thing of the past.
Yeah, you know, I think that Kelazhur's on, and this is like just pure honesty right now, this is kind of Kelazhur's chances also going up in flames alongside a lot of those buildings, just because, well, I guess like nice Widowmine hits and everything on the mutals, but he just doesn't have production facilities, and that is the #1 problem, is that all of his production facilities have been taken out. He's trying to rebuild them, but let me put it this way, he doesn't even have a factory right now. Like, he doesn't have a factory or a starport. He can't make additional medevacs. He can't make more widow mines. He's hanging on by just a thread of some of these Marines, and even his main command center looks like it might be burning down.
Oh, if these banelings come in and take out all these mining units, Kelazhur does run them away. Oh, a lot of them wasted on that missile turret, but we're going to see these.
I think it's okay. I think TooDming.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Just nitpicking there. We just have free reign now because of the missile turret being gone.
Kelazhur is holding strong on 5 SCVs and down to 26 supply versus 120. It's not oftentimes we get to say, ladies and gentlemen, that TooDming is 5 times the supply of Kelazhur. Normally it's like 2 times, maybe 3 times sometimes, but this is getting a little bit ridiculous.
And Kelazhur's managing to hold on to the 2nd orbital command for now.
I believe TooDming hasn't taken another expansion.
Yeah, and these mutas do take it out. Just slowly wearing out Kelazhur, group by group of units. And
This is, to me, this is like the Slayer's Boxer strategy. And I always call it that because Boxer was really well known for doing this kind of stuff where he just hangs around in the game as long as possible, as annoying as possible, even when, you know, you feel like you really don't have any chances left in the game, because you just are annoying. When you're clinging onto the game so desperately and you do the small little things, like you get out some widow mines and, oh god, widow mines detonated on my mutals, I have to be careful. I do not want to throw this game somehow in some miraculously terrible way. Like, it's that extra level of stress, and sometimes that can kind of weigh into the next game number 3, game number 4. Your opponents are just a little bit more tired and a little bit frustrated.
yeah, I agree. And especially when sometimes players get impatient. You know, they think, "Oh, come on, just get out of here already," and then they A move or something along those lines. Now, granted, these players are professional, right? So they're gonna, you know, be a little more composed than that. in general, but you never know. And
It happens, man.
yeah,
Even
it
with
does.
professionals.
And Kelazhur's testing that right now, and he's even mounting a counterattack here on this base.
Oh, some good Marine micro over here, avoiding those banlings for a little bit, but the banlings are going to start to connect as soon as he gets onto creep, so he has to lift up, escape out of there as fast as possible, and Needle is also going to give chase for that a little bit, but end up backing off. And the longer that Kelazhur waits, the lower his chances end up being in this game, just because TooDming actually has an economy and also has another expansion finishing up, finally retaking that third expansion. Kelazhur doesn't really have another expansion plan.
No, he doesn't have an expansion. He's not trying to make any SCVs here. Doesn't see himself having the time to do it. He's just literally working off of mules here. And he's going to find that this is just not enough units anymore. As TooDming is rolling. And he's splitting very nicely, though, I do have to say, actually. He might survive for one other round.
This is that annoyingness that I was talking about. Look at how well Kelazhur actually did, all things considered over there. I mean, engaging, he had to engage onto creep, into the Zerglings and Banlings and the Mutalists, and at the end of the day, TooDming might take the game. Kelazhur was very annoying, though, going out with a dying breath.
He certainly did. And so with that, score is now tied 1-1, and it does appear that home field advantage is a real thing here in this series.
It may very well be, as we're going to be moving back to Kelazhur's home field advantage, but still really, really cool game number 2 over there. Just a very, very more back and forth game. I guess, like, in the sense that it was not exactly back, because I know it was definitely not back and forth at the very, very end over there, but it really did feel like a little bit more of a kind of like more macro game than game number 1. It was definitely more of a macro game than game number 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Because TooDming, after his initial roach timing, he had teched up to where he needed to be as far as layer tech, tier 2 tech. And Kelazhur had gone 3 CC early on. So, there wasn't going to be an ending that soon. Both players had set themselves up economically and tech-wise to really take this into a long game. And it was nice to see that here in this series.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that being said, we are going to be hopping into game number 3 relatively shortly, but I want to remind everyone once again that you guys can contribute to the matches themselves if you would like to on matcherino.com. I believe a link should be posted in the chat. We are actually starting to get a couple of people contributing a little bit, either with the coupon code that we have, which is KELAMING, KELAMING, or just actually putting in their own money. We're up to $10 additional for Kelazhur versus TooDming, up from the 50, so that brings us to a total of $60, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, so, we weren't lying when we said that, when you contribute through Matcherino using those coupon codes, you're directly contributing to the prize pool. That is a real thing, and you can see the results of that already. And both these players, I'm sure, will be very happy for it as they are looking to earn that $25 in their series. These are best of 5 series, just as a reminder. So as we head into game 3, this is going to be that tie-breaking match to allow for a player to get into match point. So this is kind of something we got to keep our eyes on. And it's going to happen on Cactus Valley LE.
Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing how that ends up going. But again, like, just to reinforce this, you guys can contribute to these matches without putting any money of your own on the line by using those coupon codes. So there's absolutely no reason not to do it if you want to see these guys play for a little bit more money, put a little bit more of their hearts on the line. And we are pretty much getting ready to hop into the game. But Cactus Valley, Droopy, do you have any thoughts about this? Because this is the first 4-player map that we're going to be seeing. It's a much, much bigger map than either of the other 2 maps that we've seen so far. And generally lends itself a little bit more toward like those kind of macro-oriented games, minus the whole mind game of because it's a big map and a macro-oriented map, I'm going to cheese. Minus that.
Well, just because of the nature of the map, lots of open spaces in between the bases, I'd have to say this is a Terran's playground right here. And I want to see Kelazhur be able to try to take advantage of that. Not to mention we're back on NA now. And, he tends to play more bio than anything else in a long game scenario. So draw play is going to be very, very key here. And we'll see if TooDming, again, like the previous two games, is going to be able to get up some aggressive timing push that will throw Kelazhur off his game. But let's go ahead and introduce the players, right? So we do have here our first player on the bottom right-hand side, red Terran player representing Rude Gaming. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have here the Brazilian Terran, Kelazhur.
And his opponent spawning up in the top left-hand corner of the map. It is the blue Zerg player representing Team Zoo. It's TooDming. All right. So, as we go ahead and move into this map, I want to ask you, because Droopy, I know that as people who have seen this map time and time again, we have been able to witness like Terran players abuse like the ledges and everything on this map. But what do you feel, for those who are maybe not as familiar with it, like what makes this map so nice for Terran?
Well, just so many avenues to really fly those metavacs all over the place, right? That's always a huge thing about both four-player maps this season, whether it's Cactus Valley, whether it's Iron Fortress, and mounting multi-pronged attacks is something that a lot of players, a lot of non-Terran players are really scared of dealing with here on Cactus Valley, just because, you really have to have your units split. If not split, at least have good creep spread so they can travel quickly, because otherwise you're going to be able to defend one place but not the other. And so if TooDming wants to avoid that scenario, I'm sure he's, relatively capable of handling it, but we've seen him mount some aggressive strategies early on with the roach timing, his attempt at a Baneling bust. He can do these things and try to, knock Kelazhur back a few pegs, not to necessarily win, but to keep Kelazhur from getting to that mid-game, scenario where he can start dropping everywhere, because everyone's going to be a little behind. So
yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And we're starting to see small deviations, I guess, on Kelazhur's side in terms of what he's planning to do. He did go for the earlier Gas Geyser, and is still going to be going up for, his command center and everything, but he doesn't opt for the Reaper this game. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, four-player map, a little bit harder to make that kind of stuff work and actually get to your opponent's base on time. So instead, just going to going probably the faster factory, I'd imagine.
Yeah, last game he went for the super early third CC. This time around, we may see it come just a fair bit later. It's only 4:37 though, so he might go for a standard timing third CC. We'll see. Factory is on the way, of course. Bunker in the front of the natural. And we're just seeing Kelazhur crank out more Marines at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean, for all the teching that Kelazhur's doing, I would say that TooDming is also teching insanely fast. What is this? He skips Zergling speed, goes straight up to his lair tech. Is this like one of the fastest two-base Muto plays that I've ever seen, or is there something else going on?
I'd have to say it's got to be. There's no reason why you would get a lair this early. If you were trying to do some kind of roach speed, you would be timing it with a roach warren already in production. So let's see when TooDming goes ahead and takes those gases, because that's obviously going to be the biggest,
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that like he still has not taken those gas guys, and that's what's making me thinking like, okay, maybe this is a Nidus Worm play. He does throw down a roach warren.
He does throw down a roach warren. So now that you mention it, yeah, Nidus is probably the right call here.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. We'll see again. Like as you were saying, when does he take all of his other remaining gas geysers? He's taking 2 of them right now, and if he doesn't take that 4th, I'm going to be inclined to think that it's either Nidus play or some kind of burrow play. We could see some really funky like burrow movement speed roaches just darting around and trying to cause havoc, but it's going to be difficult if he does something like that, right? Because he still has to deal with the wall in.
Yeah, and right now, he does have an Overlord position right above Kelazhur's natural, so that's going to be obviously a key thing here if we're talking about potential Nidus play. And yeah, you were right all the way, Fear Dragon. There is a Nidus Worm on the way at the moment.
All right. Well, how prepared is Kelazhur going to be? This is a really cool play, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because normally what a lot of Terran players are doing at this stage in the game is they're making Hellions, as we can see, and they're going to try and just use those on the other side of the map. So that means he's A, going to be completely out of position for a Nidus Worm play, and B, behind this, Terran players are usually also teching up or adding on additional production facilities. Now, luckily for Kelazhur, he's opting to go for Banshees, which is going to be a little bit more beneficial, but is he actually going to have a Banshee around at home? He does! And wait, the Nidus Worm is going down in front of the third CC. This isn't even going to finish.
Yeah, that's a little bizarre here, and Kelazhur's going to deal with that fairly quickly. And now he knows what's up. He's going to have his eyes open for additional Nidus Worms. He won't see this one, but granted, it's so far away from Kelazhur's natural anyways. But let's see if Kelazhur can continue to do some annoying things with these Hellions. Not getting past the front of the natural, though.
This is going to be so awkward for TooDming. He's really going to have to make some magic happen over here, because even with, the queens and everything, Cloak is going to be finished up. So if that Overseer ends up going down, it's going to get super awkward. The Wall-In with all of the SCVs repairing is going to be ready. Widowminer hits already kill off a majority of the Zerglings. So, TooDming, that queen is not out of range. Ooh, good transfuse, but...
Good transfuse, that's a waste one, though.
Yeah, Hellions going in. That's where TooDming's attention was. Just taking out some of those drones, kills off 4 of them.
Yeah, and it's just this is like almost returning game 1 in the sense where TooDming tries to do something aggressive, and Kelazhur on the back end is able to just do something to really limit TooDming's ability here. And now TooDming looks like he wants to retreat, actually.
Well, Overseer is still there. It was just off to the right, I guess. Maybe trying to get a scout off or something, but gonna be able to keep those queens alive for now. And also has some pretty awesome creep spray, but the Hellions moving back into the main base. Gonna be able to kill off a couple more drones. Manage to kill off 2, maybe be able to get a 3rd. Doesn't look like it, but still, I mean, some nice damage. And of course, Kelazhur is still sitting, even with all the SCVs being pulled off the line to repair the bunkers for so long, he's still sitting on 3 CC. Although he has halted SCV production, which does hurt a lot of the power of that.
Well, you have to think too that, TooDming, to try to mount this kind of attack, had also delayed a lot of his economic production, right? We're seeing a 3rd hatchery only being built now. He is taking 2 at a time with the 4th macro hatch. So really, Kelazhur's not in a bad spot, having essentially shut down this Nidus attack before it really even happened. And because of this, he's in a position to make a counter attack here, and that's going to be something TooDming's going to have issues with.
My concern is the fact that during all this, TooDming has also been teching out into the Spire play, and that means that he's going to have Mutalisk out around the time that this push could ever even come up to him. And there's next to no anti-air in this actual army. There's 2 Widowmines, that's awesome, that's great against a large clump of Mutalisks. But it's not great if there's just a low number of Mutalisks that are able to slowly pick away at everything in your army, because it's very easy to split that up. And then there's 4, now 11 Marines as some of the production starts to take off, but it's going to be really difficult, I think, for Kelazhur to defend against those Mutalisks.
Well, we did see a few fly past these Banshees, but not in vision of them, so Kelazhur doesn't quite see them yet, but now he's about to, as they're going to head into the main base. No anti-air like you mentioned, and, well, we'll see if these Marines popping out will be able to help. It's not that many, though.
Yeah, a couple workers going down on both sides of the map. A lot of the drones going down rapidly to the Banshees, but I mean, the aerial attack continues on the other side as well, with the Mutalisk taking out an equally large, well, not quite equally large number of SCVs. Oh my god, these Banshees are doing work, but...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kelazhur has really been on top of things, taking out workers. 24 workers killed in total this game. That does include the earlier Hellion harassment as well. TooDming did manage to get quite a few kills himself, about 10 or 11. Well, who's ahead here? That's always what everyone wants to know. Kelazhur actually has more SCVs at the moment than TooDming does.
And I think that definitely favors Kelazhur, just because, I mean, right now it's a 3-base Zerg versus a 3-base Terran, and the Terran player has gotten all of his production facilities up, and has gotten his upgrades finished up. One already finished up, and could probably start up 2-2 relatively soon if he decides to put on that armory. But I mean, Kelazhur, I feel like I agree. I think he's looking relatively strong right now.
I think it's safe to say, right? He is up 152 to 104 supply, and that is not at all how things are supposed to go from the Zerg's perspective in ZVT, right? You're at 14 minutes in the game. You're supposed to be ahead in supply. That's just kind of how the game is balanced out. Instead, you're behind by a huge amount, and your opponent now is ready to start doing that drop play that we hinted at early in the game. I don't know. We'll see if TooDming here can do some kind of pressure or something to stop what is this advance here from Kelazhur.
Yeah, a little bit of the creep spread has made its way out, and that's going to be actually be in a really nice position for TooDming, just because he's going to be able to take this engagement mostly on creep and get some pretty decent hits, but I don't know if they were the hits that he needed to hold on to this push. A lot of Kelazhur's army still alive and very healthy.
Yeah, and given how many of these Zerg units were killed off, he needs to do drop play when you just advance all at once. GG. And Kelazhur is now back in the lead 2-1.
Yeah, some pretty aggressive play out of both these players, especially TooDming, who I'd say has just not been afraid to throw out just the, okay, I'm just 2-base Roach at 5 minutes, let's go. Yeah. 2-base Nidus Worm play, let's go. Like, just not afraid to throw out all kinds of the crazy aggressive builds in this series, which is what I was kind of more expecting from Kelazhur a little bit more. I'm really actually surprised Kelazhur has not gone for Hellbat timing yet, because that is just something that when I think of Kelazhur TVZ, I think of Hellbat timings.
Yeah, and it is definitely ironic. And TooDming here, he's been the more boomer bust player, just trying to be more proactive with the aggression, maybe because of Kelazhur's reputation of being that Hellbat guy. Because as a Zerg player, you kind of want to get out in front of your opponent as far as making those earlier roaches or getting those banelings faster, because you want to basically punish your opponent for trying to go that type of build. But Kelazhur hasn't quite done it. He's been able for 2 games to really stop TooDming in his tracks, and because of it, he is up 2-1 right now.
And I just want to say, wow, I just checked the Matcherino pages, and I want to note that we have, first of all, a couple of really, really awesome people contributing to this match, Kelazhur versus TooDming. We're up to $11 now being contributed, so it's now a $61 money match. There is also $8 currently on Parting versus Solar, which is really cool, because we haven't actually been talking too much about that one. But then the third match is the coolest, which is our final match for the night. We're up to $41 being contributed, which is freaking awesome. It's a $100 match. We almost have like 50% of the money being put on. Just we're at 150% almost. Actually, I could say we're at exactly 141% of the money we started with. And
that's all thanks to you guys, the viewers, and keep those coupon codes rolling in. That's your free way to support your favorite players that are being featured tonight here on Fight Night. And yeah, that's an exciting way for you to get involved.
Actually, sorry, I actually mistook it. Partying versus Solar is at $8, so that's our highlight match. The match that has $41 being added to it is Puck versus Ruff. So we're actually at 82% of the initial prize pool, and a lot of that thanks to Archnog, who's an amazing guy. But I want to note, like, it's not just one guy putting in all this money. It's a ton of different people using those coupon codes, because again, it's totally free for you guys to use them. And if you want to go ahead and use it for the match that we're watching right now, Kelazhur versus TooDming, then all you have to do is input the coupon code KELAMING, KELAMING. And if you want to check out the other ones, Parting Con, it's just Parting with KHAN. That would be the one for Parting versus Solar, I believe. And the one for Puck versus Ruff is Ruff Puck. RUFFPUCK. Nice and easy.
Indeed it is. All right, game 4 now, guys. And we're looking at Iron Fortress LE as our venue. We do have here on the upper left-hand side the guy who's up 2-1. He is in the teal color, guys. Representing Root Gaming, it is the Brazilian Terran player, Kelazhur.
And his opponent spawning down the bottom right-hand corner of the map. It's the red Zerg player leading up the series 2-1. It's TooDming. Wait, I said leading up the series. Sorry, down in the series 2-1.
Down in the series 2-1, but again, now he is back on KR's server, and so far I have yet to see either player really deviate from taking advantage of home field, because we've been bouncing back between server and server. because both players are obviously from different regions of the world, and we're trying to make it somewhat fair. So far, seems to be falling in line with what you'd expect.
Yeah, I don't think that they're probably thinking or like designating their strategies too much off of that home turf like ping advantage. Uh, I think just because there are other factors that are going to probably deviate what kind of builds you want to go for a little bit more, just like the maps and that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, in fact, most actually in all of these games, the deciding factor has never really been micro, which is really usually the issue when we talk about latency on other servers. So, both these players have. It's been kind of clear when those engagements occur because one player just has way more than the other, or their timing was ill-conceived. It really just never comes down to, oh my gosh, like Kelazhur couldn't split against those banelings. Like it's that's never really been the case.
I think the closest thing that we had to that was just Kelazhur's absolute badass sniping off of like 10 or 11 banelings that didn't have a baneling speed. I think it was in game number 1 or game number 2. I think it was game number 1. But like that's like the closest we've gotten to something like that, where it's just like, oh, that's really awesome that he was able to do something like that. And it's probably a little bit easier because it's the North American server and he doesn't have a ridiculous ping, but still, I would agree. Like most of this has just been like combatant of the players themselves. But CC first come Kelazhur over here. 4-player map, as we were saying, does affect the way that you want to play out on the map, and Kelazhur going a little bit more economic once again.
Yeah. What did he do on Cactus Fell again? He went with
he went one Rax. He went one Rax expansion, and he went for the gas geyser, but he went straight for the factory. He skipped the Reaper.
So yeah, a little more economic this time, greedy, if you really want to use that term. Although a lot of Terran players will take their liberties in this scenario, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. Kelazhur is bunkering up in the front just because, in anticipation of that kind of greed, Zerg players will crank out some early lings to see if they can snipe a building SCV on the low ground. Kelazhur is going to be out in front of that, immediately have some Marines to populate that bunker.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like really high levels of greed over here from Kelazhur with, again, like as you were saying, like 2 Marines, and then, okay, cool, let's get a reactor and our factory up and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, if there was any sort of attack whatsoever, Kelazhur would be dead. Like, if there was any form of aggression, Kelazhur would have died. But he did get his scout off and saw, like, okay, you did go hatch first and everything. So he's allowed to play a little bit greedier on this side, I guess.
Yeah, and, scouting is obviously that huge thing because when you're playing TooDming, after these 3 games, you cannot say TooDming is above, doing a really aggressive 2-base timing, right? We saw that last game. So
yeah,
you have to, basically your responsibility of scouting has to be taken care of. Kelazhur has managed to do that. That's why we see him here, taking his liberties with the production. But now he's teching up further, though. He's not getting that 3rd CC. We have the starport on the way right now, and we'll see if he what kind of composition he's going for.
Yeah, we have going up to 3 gas geysers over here for TooDming and getting up his lair. Still not throwing down that 3rd expansion, but it's continuing to drone up. I'm also a little bit curious. This could be a little bit more of a not crazy fast Spire play, but this could just be like a 2-base Muta play, which has become a bit more popular for a lot of players just because it feels like they get so much more map control when they do something like that. And I really just feel like with the way TooDming's been playing, he is the player that will really want that kind of map control.
Yeah, there it is. There's that Spire now, just plopped down. In the meantime, though, we have Kelazhur starting to gear up for a Marine drop Hellion run by. And he's going to show those first 4 Hellions by poking at some of those Queens. And, of course, the key here is to get this timing in before the Mutas come into play. The Spire right now at 30%. Baneling Nest on the way as well here for TooDming.
Well, Hellion's going to be poking away at some of these. Oh, actually, these Queens going to be caught a little bit off guard. I was like, wait a second, why are there Marines with this push also? And they're going to be able to do some nice damage. Hellion's actually tanking a good bit of damage also for these Marines to do the damage from the backside. But unfortunately, for Kelazhur, it looks like a lot of his Marines get cleaned up. Hellions, though, find an opportunity to make their way into the main base.
Yeah, I mean, those Hellions weren't going to be able to take out those Queens, not with the transfuses and everything, but hey, I'll just roll right past your slow Queens, and we see TooDming doing a good job of splitting the drones, loses a lot of them nonetheless. Kelazhur sees the Spire, though. This is key here, as the Spire is about to finish, and so let's see if Kelazhur can take out more units before these Hellions expire, as he has to scramble back at home to get up some anti-air.
I mean, it's like you were saying, like, it's a huge thing that he scouts out the Spire, but also he has that time to react and immediately just starts throwing down the missile turrets and says, okay, awesome, like, I'm prepared, I'm gonna be prepared for these mutilas, come at me, bro. Like, he has done also a decent bit of damage. He killed off like a pretty decent number of workers. He killed off 14 drones with that push in. Even if he ends up losing all the units, which is a little bit unfortunate, let's be honest. There was also Marines and Medivacs with that push, but I still feel like he's gonna be feeling pretty good about this.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, just looking at the resources lost here and the units that were killed, Kelazhur's been more cost effective. It's not any skin off his back at all. And with that damage done to TooDming, that just makes his muta timing a lot weaker. So we're not going to see as many mutas really for TooDming, if any at all. He actually has yet to make any mutas at the moment. He's actually going to go for a Bane Bust, it looks like, instead. So this is almost a return to game one.
I actually kind of like this because you think about it, when a Terran player is investing into all those missile turrets immediately, like, you know, as a Zerg player, they're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
That means that they're not really going to have a lot of money for additional bunkers or a lot of the things that you'd want versus the Baneling Bust. And oh my god, Kelazhur moving over to the third. And I don't think that, did TooDming sees the SCVs moving over there. He is going to know that the army should probably be over there as well.
Oh, it takes out a huge chunk of those transferring SCVs as well as this wall. And now TooDming is making his way into that main place. Yeah, that was that was a little awkward there. Those Marines stuffing that ramp. Ooh, Kelazhur lifting off just in time. There is Baneling speed.
Oh, this is going to be the big problem over here, though, for TooDming, is that, like, the Medivacs are going to be able to lift up these Marines, and Banelings don't have speed or anything on them, so this is going to be a little bit awkward for them, especially on the retreat, where Marines are going to be able to go after those Banelings and snipe off any remaining Zergans that try and fight this army. Mutilas, I think that they're going to be coming out soon because we have +1 flyer attacks on the way, but Kelazhur only loses a couple of his SCVs and is still establishing that third expansion.
Yeah, it's actually not so bad for Kelazhur at all here. If you take a look at that SCV count, he's not that far behind, and mules will easily make up the equation. You know,
love the target fire.
Yeah. Oh, and also, you know, TooDming did sacrifice a bit to make this time. He does get his units into that natural. Again, not that much damage done, and Kelazhur now armed with a lot of Medivacs, a lot of bio units. What is this a recipe for?
This is a recipe for disaster for TooDming, but some things I really like about TooDming's situation is that +1 flyer attacks is going to be finishing up very soon. It's really awesome that he got that started nice and early, but he also has a lot of queens that he made earlier on, especially to defend against those Hellions, and that means that he is able to throw down an absurd number of creep tumors. That's going to make it a little bit more, I mean, it's not amazing creep spread so far, but it's going to start to get a little bit annoying for Kelazhur to actually try and push in over here with so many creep tumors constantly free spreading themselves from behind.
Well, nonetheless, Kelazhur is going to try to make his way in here, sending out just a few Marines to, you know, bait out those Banelings so they limit the area of effect damage they can do. And, you know, Kelazhur's just waiting for the Banelings to run out here, sending just a few Marines.
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah. And, well, now he's going to move in with the rest of the Marines. There are more Banelings out here, though, just being produced time and time again.
Yep. The Banelings are going to be able to do a really nice bit of damage over here. Kelazhur's army has just been thinned out so much. I think that he's trying to just put on that pressure, but I don't know if he's actually going to be able to push in over here unless he gets some amazing trades versus these Banelings, but not going to happen. TooDming is able to push his army back, and Kelazhur is forced to lift off and loses his Widow Mines that were really his driving force of preventing the Zerg army from just overrunning this engagement.
Yeah, and, you know, Kelazhur, you know, for him, there are more Banelings than he expected. Just, you know, TooDming has been able to keep up the production here. And with that, again, just repelling another attack. As TooDming is really only needing to defend one location at a time. He's just, you know, producing at that third and just able to rally those units immediately to deal with the attack from Kelazhur. I almost want to see Kelazhur here start splitting off 1 or 2 Medivacs to attack a location where TooDming isn't watching.
Yeah, that might be what we are seeing right now. Is he has 2 medevacs worth of units, actually a little bit more than 2 medevacs worth of units, I think, if I'm counting correctly. Maybe, I'm not sure. But regardless, he has them sitting on the right-hand side. As he moves his army out a little bit closer to the center, we might be seeing that split-up attack very soon. As Kelazhur, the one thing I will say is that even though he's been losing a lot of units and probably not trading unbelievably cost-effectively, he still has a really, really solid economy behind all this, and he's just been buying himself so much space.
Kelazhur right now, this 2 medevac drop army has been spotted by the Overlord. Immediately, TooDming rallies the mutas to chase after that last medevac, as it does drop just 3 Marines on the ground here. But, of course, that does mean the third is potentially vulnerable. These Banelings are rolling in right now. Kelazhur left most of them to save them.
Yeah, just barely. I mean, the Bailey was directly on top of a lot of those Marines, but as you were saying, he does manage to get those out. Widow Mines, unfortunately, are going to be going down. I don't think any of them will even get another shot off or anything. Oh, unless the entire army leaves, then they might get another shot off later, but... Huh?
Yeah, and you want to talk about, or I guess I was the one who's even mentioning this, really, just the fact that, barely lifting up those Marines. Imagine if lag played into that.
Yeah,
could be
that's
disastrous,
true.
right? But it didn't. So, Kelazhur managing to keep his units alive.
Yeah, it definitely plays a huge impact. And I also want to say another thing that we haven't really talked about that has been playing a huge impact in Kelazhur being able to make the trades, even though he has had slightly underwhelming numbers compared to TooDming, is the fact that he's had his 2-2 finished up for a while. Yep. TooDming is only just now going to be finishing up his own 2-2, and 3-3 is already halfway finished for Kelazhur. So he's got that nice upgrade lead, but there's going to be this small little window as he makes another push out where he's not going to have that upgrade lead that he had in some of those previous engagements.
Those mutas fly right past that army, not that they see it or anything, but Kelazhur is going to be in a position here to pressure this 4th base, but a lot of Lings and Banes being rallied over by TooDming to prepare for this, while the mutas up at the top are going to try to get in some damage on that 4th, but oh my gosh, look at all these turrets. Doesn't seem to scare TooDming, though.
Yeah, I feel like it should, though. He loses a lot, and doesn't really kill any SCVs. At the same time, Kelazhur is already doing some nice damage, killing off 9 workers so far. The Zergans and the Banelings are now charging in, and it looks like he should be able to clean up this army of Kelazhur, but he ends up taking a lot of losses over there.
Yeah, he does, and Kelazhur is able to continue macking back home. He's back up in supply right now, falling just a bit behind, and look at this, a train of reinforcements coming over here.
Oh my god.
Not quite the same production we're seeing from TooDming. He's down to just regular old speedlings. Is this going to do the trick against +3 Marines? I don't think so. GG, and Kelazhur is able to take one on the Korean server.
And that is the one that he needed, because he was already up 2-1. I believe that brings him to 3-1 and a victory in Team Gravity Fight Night show match.
Yeah, he's like, Droopy, you keep beating this dead horse about the server home field advantage. Well, not today. And,
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in for the first match. Now, don't go anywhere. We still have plenty of other matches coming up, including a total of 2 other matches, which is plenty in my mind, because they're best of 5 and best of 7. But we're going to be moving into Puck versus Ruff in just a little bit. I want to thank you guys all so much for participating on matcherino.com. I know the link has been thrown out in the chat a little bit, as well as also just checking out the website Azubu, because this is a very, very new streaming platform for Team Gravity Fight Night. I know that we guys maybe used to some of the other platforms that we were streaming on, but since we've moved over, we hope that you guys make yourselves at home. Go ahead and register an account and participate in the chat. Just be a little bit active and give Azubu a shot. I know that there are a lot of really awesome Koreans that also stream on Azubu, so if you like seeing high-level Korean play, then
yeah,
it might be a good platform to check out and register an account on.
Home of Pro League, so, definitely the spot for StarCraft stuff. All right, guys, we're going to go to a very short break. When we come back, like Fear Dragon said, we're going to have Ruff versus Puck.